Welcome to Presente, a space and community that vibes on being in the moment, something we are relearning how to do in a fast moving world.
We are excited to be part of a growing movement that talks about topics that we feel haven't been talked about in our Latin culture and womanhood.
Be present with us. Take a pause and break down societal norms.
Redefine the meaning of existing. Welcome to Presente, the podcast.
Past life connections. It is said that our spirits live on and may even live on forever, even after you've passed. The physical may not exist in plain sight, but the spirit, your spirit, continues to live in all its time. That's fascinating and interesting and confusing, yet I'd like to know more. For starters, I've always wondered why certain things supernaturally come to us. A sixth sense, one that can be defined as intuition. We, and I mean you and I, all connected. And everything is all connected. The past to the present right this moment, and the future that awaits us. Life, those who've lived and all things that are may indeed be all connected. For this episode, we'll be discussing past life connections, and we have a special guest with real life experiences of her own, Brooke Bezerra. She joins us as we dive deeper into this topic, so please stay tuned.
If you didn't catch our previous episodes on starseeds, I recommend tuning in as both of these topics for today have similar ideas. According to Google, the soul is the spiritual part of the human being. It's the part of us that longs, believes, and is in tune with our emotions, and perhaps maybe even connected to different dimensions in the universe. Past life connections are intriguing, and there are so many ways that the media has captured this type of connection, whether it be in films, video games, etc. Some predict maybe, I'm not sure, but some predict that maybe even some celebrities have found ways to time travel and use their knowledge to support the growth of this world. But who knows, really? The Egyptians used to believe in the afterlife. Some of us believe our souls go somewhere after leaving this physical world or this physical plane. But what about where we existed before this, our past lives? What are the connections to our own history? Who may have been to shape our existence today? It's 2024. We are in the age of Aquarius, the age of high technology usage. We are in the age of artificial intelligence, etc. An era of collective awakenings. So for today's episode, as always, please let's keep an open mind. We each have a diverse set of beliefs, so let's keep it respectful and tune in. Soul types. Some people have referred to themselves as an old soul, where they feel like they have lived experiences from the past in different ways and embody those lived experiences or memories in the most current or present timeline. I've also heard of new souls, strong souls, etc. Personally, I've always felt connected to history and the past, wondering if my soul perhaps experienced a different point in time. I've always loved ancient Egyptian history and found the culture of ancient Egypt to be mystical and magical. From the designs of the pyramids, the Sphinx, and more, so much to where I think I probably would have been a great archaeologist. I used to want to be a great archaeologist when I was in the 6th grade, but my mother was afraid that something would happen to me in like a mountain somewhere. So past history is just that. Ways of understanding what was then to help navigate our present and continue building the future. Who knows? Maybe in the past, I was an explorer because of my fascination with history, culture, languages, etc. I feel like some people would say that I am empathetic and sometimes can feel the pull of the world's energies. Like, for example, today with retrograde. I'm also interested in things like tarot and energies. While I'm not experienced in them, I've always felt connected to these sort of things. I think my soul isn't an old one, but I definitely think I've maybe, who knows, have had a past life. Adults told me when I was a child that I was very wise, especially when there were some hardships within my own family. I remember always wanting to place myself in that person's shoes as a kid and kind of like help soothe or help heal the adults within my life that were going through a hardship. Somehow, again, connecting to those that were older than me is perhaps a reminder that younger children carry wisdom adults forget the older that they get. Who really knows, though? Maybe our souls are here to experience different kinds of roles to gain wisdom, grow, and understand how to align into our full selves.
Hey, it's Jennifer here. And I don't know if there's a right answer to this. However, I'd say that I too am an old soul, just like you, Gisela. Now, how old? Well, I have no idea. I am an old soul and lover of old music, traditions, and principles. With an old soul comes wisdom and connections, instincts and intuition. And there have been many instances in my life where my old soul is highly in alignment, making me actually feel very alive. Sometimes it's like a deja vu or feeling of something is about to happen, or I've been here before, or I've dreamt it. I can tie that maybe to past life or maybe psychic abilities. I'm not sure. Some may say I have a strong clairvoyance, and well, we will talk about that at another time.
What is a past life? Simply put, feeling like you may have, or your soul has, lived a life or many lives beyond your current one.
Hello, I am Brooke Bezerra and I'm on Presente.
Joining us today on Presente is a special person I've had the chance to know and be friends with. Brooke Bezerra, thank you so much for joining us. She is a relative to my fiance, very skillful, hardworking, and beautiful. And I'm so glad that she's able to be here on Presente today, where she will be sharing with us some of her own personal experiences as we shed light onto this topic of past life connections. Brooke, thank you so much. Please, so that our listeners can know a little bit more about you, please tell us about yourself, a little bit about your background, and what brings you here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me, guys. It's such a pleasure to be on the podcast show, Presente. A little bit about me. Now I am 36 years old. I was born in Brazil, but I came to the United States at a very young age in 1989, and I've been here ever since. I've always been very connected with my grandmother. She raised me very family orientated. Yes, I'm super excited to be here, guys, and share with you my experience. One of the reasons I'm wanting to really bring out my story is in hopes to find more people out there like me. And also, it's always been one of my grandmother's wishes to share the story with the world.
Absolutely. I think early on when you and I met, at some point you shared this story with me, and I was just like completely amazed just because we can both agree that there's more to life than just, the ordinary, like, walking through life, getting through it. Sometimes it's not just the physical, but, the soul and the spirit and, way beyond us. So I think it's pretty interesting stuff, makes really good conversation. Brooke, I know about your story, and I agree with your grandmother where you should be sharing it. This past life connection theory, how can we know it's true? Let us know who you are connected to and how young were you when you first experienced a past life connection.
Past life connection, it's very interesting. It's a little hard to describe sometimes because it's all a blur. My, the memories that I have is pretty much all tangled into one. One of the things that proof I like to say, I am living proof of past life connections and reincarnation because I was born with the scars. I was born with the marks, the birthmarks from the previous life. So I came back into this life carrying that with me. One of the main proofs that I have aside from the scars is, other people that have witnessed too in accounts of when I speak or things that I say or see that in this life I have no idea, but there's some way somehow that I do. The memory is there, the connection is there within me.
And can you let us know this connection, who it ties into? For example, what ties you with this person? I know you said marks and scars. These are traits that formerly someone else also carried. And who is that?
Yes, so exactly. So it was my grandmother's daughter. Unfortunately, she passed away in a very horrific car accident in 1985. I'm sorry, in 1986. And when she passed away in the car accident, she had scars that, she left behind. But aside from the scars, she had birthmarks too that she had on her body. So 2 years later, when I was born, they found those same scars and marks in my body, and especially as I started to grow and get a little bit older. And then when I started to actually speak, I started to recognize people, places, and things. It just came to me so naturally, especially her close friends. I would just recognize everybody. I have attachment to her previous items as well, like a blanket and a few items too that I remember the house I grew up in. I can paint it and picture it correctly. Memories. My grandmother, my mother has always been the ones that kind of help me differentiate my memories, because as anybody have childhood memories, to me, they're just childhood memories. Like I have a childhood memory of playing in a specific backyard where we had this one tree. And that's not a house that I in this life have been in, but I can picture it, paint it, draw it specifically. And everybody in my family tells me, well, that's the house that she lived in, that she grew up in, and to me, it's just part of one of my childhood memories. And I have many of those. That's why it's like, it's all tangled in. That's why the two people that help me differentiate those memories usually is my mom and my grandmother. They would tell me, oh, okay, well, that memory that you have, that you speaking of, is not in this life. It's in the past life. And that's, just unexplainable. It's unexplainable. I've always tried to look for answers myself as well. I've actually been interviewed by Jim Tucker, who is a professor from the University of Virginia. He came out to New York one time to meet with me, and he's done many studies on past life reincarnation, past life connections. And it was very interesting, my meeting with him. And, he's also can take account for me that everything that he studied in me was true. Yeah, it's interesting story.
I recall seeing like news articles of you at a very young age back in Brazil, where this story became very big. Like people wanted to know more, like how someone so small and new to this world can be very connected to someone who passed. And I wonder, I guess like why this occurs, like does this deceased person, still hasn't maybe fulfilled their purpose in life, but you became the chosen one. And it's good that it's kept, I want to say, within the family. I've seen documentaries, from many years ago, long ago, where it's off. Sometimes it's people you don't even know, so it's hard to kind of for people to believe it or to point specifically like this was that person. But for you to have your mother and your grandmother and the rest of your family to kind of really solidify like, hey, this is her within her, and that's good, because that guidance I think is necessary, especially you at as a young age. You're confused and you don't know perhaps why these things are happening. I believe you're truly gifted and special in that sense. And your story definitely needs to be put out there, because past life connections, I think it's a real thing. I think it's true. And if more people can speak up about it, hey, that just helps confirm things. And you have no doubts, like no doubts that you're personally like connected to someone haven't even met or have any physical kind of interaction or nothing. It's like without a doubt, this is who you are connected to.
Absolutely. I have no doubt. One thing I wanted to add to that is according to the studies from Jim Tucker, it very commonly happens within families. This is on his study.
Yeah.
It happens within families. They do come back. It does happen with different religions do believe that, yes, your purpose has not been met. You were not done in this life. A lot of the times it was an accident. A lot of reincarnations happen with somebody that, died in a horrific accident or something like that. Pretty sure, there's other spiritualities behind it too that can explain it more. However, with this case of mine, yes, it did make headlines, news in Brazil, so much that books were written about it. We had reporters coming from all over to interview me, my mom, my grandmother, my grandfather. It definitely made headlines, but the connection is there. It's real. I know some people are skeptic and have their own doubts, but according to Jim Tucker, a lot of people are reincarnated, but they don't remember their past life. There are very few like myself that carry on even after the age of 7, because apparently your brain starts to develop a little bit different after the age of 6 and 7 years old. And a lot of people tend to forget, their imaginary friend goes away. That imaginary mind that everybody's born with, it starts to develop more into, society. So that's why it changes. It's very few people, according to his study, that actually do remember their past life, like the way I do after the age of 7. And now I'm 36 years old and I still have memories of it. I do have a lot of flashbacks too. When I was younger, I used to deal with a lot of nightmares, and a lot of the nightmares was me dying. It's like a replay nightmare. I would just wake up screaming. And another interesting fact about me too, as a baby, I wouldn't sleep. I would not sleep. And my mother and my grandmother would take me to these doctors, holistic doctors, any kind of doctor that they could find an answers to as to why the baby is not sleeping. They were actually very concerned, for other health reasons. I would just not sleep. And I think I would not sleep in fear, as a baby, not knowing, but probably in fear of these nightmares that do come to me, the flashes that sometimes do come to me.
It can be a gift and a curse in a sense, and you have no idea what's going on, especially so small at that age. That was actually one of the next questions that I wanted to ask you was, what are some of those challenges you face, given that, here you are, and yet you're living someone else's past life? You mentioned like the blurred memories and the nightmares. Is that still something you face?
Yes, it is. I do have repeating nightmares that come to me. I actually try to go to therapy to help me through them. But it's one of those things that's also unexplainable, because a lot of therapists, a lot of doctors have told me how nightmares are developed. However, the way the nightmares and dreams are developed is not what's coinciding with me. These dreams that I have, I've been having them since I was a child. It's, they say like, oh, okay, dreams and nightmares usually happen. Your brain starts to gather little pieces of things you see throughout the day. And then when you go to sleep, your brain pretty much does like a playback. That's how dreams work, right? That's not in my case, because these nightmares and these dreams that are having have nothing to, it's not in my vision whatsoever, my daily visions whatsoever. These are nightmares that I've been having since I was a baby, since I was a child, and it's recurring. Sometimes it comes. When it comes, I just wake myself up. I do sleepwalk a lot. That's also something that my parents always try to take me to the doctor to try to figure out. They could not figure out, my reason for sleepwalking and the way I sleepwalk. It's been a challenge. I've always sleepwalked my whole entire life, to the point where I'm sure Jennifer's been to my house and I have like 3-4 locks on my door. My parents actually come and install it because they're scared I'm going to sleepwalk and leave, So that I'm not sure if this all like coincides with everything, but it's unexplainable. Like, I've been to doctors, I've been to sleep clinics where they did tests and studies on me, but it got to the point where I was so tired. I'm like, I started to feel like a guinea pig here. Even the University of Virginia offered me to go over there and they study my brain, but honestly, I declined, because I just feel like this is not the part of the story I want to share. I don't want to share the part of the story where they're studying my brain and trying to study why this and this and this happened. I think, it is very interesting that the University of Virginia does study paranormal things like this, and they do study reincarnation. But the story that I'm trying to share more is like, I know there's people out there like me. I know there has to be. I think they're also confused. I think that, society tries to tries to manipulate your mind into thinking that this is not what it is. So that's what I really wanted to bring out here. Yeah. Challenges that I face day to day is blurred memories, the sleepwalking. Sometimes I have dreams where like of things that happen. It's almost like an astral projection where like I don't know if it was real or if it was not. There it's very hard to define it, but I do believe I probably astral projected many times before and I just don't know. I've been trying to learn how to take more control of it too.
When you say astral projected, is that what is that?
So astral projection is basically when you go to sleep and your soul leaves your body and it wanders around. It can go anywhere in this world, anywhere. I've probably been doing that since I was a baby, since I was a kid. My last recent astral projection actually went to work. It's not like a magical thing all the time. It can be anything. That's a gift and a curse because unfortunately it's something that you have to practice a lot on how to control it. It's something that's very dangerous too. But I didn't reach that spiritual realm yet where I know how to fully control it. I have no control of it sometimes. So it's hard to define what's real and what's not because you will wake up and you're like, wow, okay, I can't remember if I spoke to somebody about this and this and that. And I didn't, but I know that I did. But it's probably in my astral projection dreams, and I can find out things like that as well. Like, simple things. I find out things. It's kind of hard to like really put into words and explain it unless you have astral projected yourself. But that is something that, it's brought me closer to spirituality because I want to learn more of how to control it. Because I've heard people that astral projection and never came back, and I'm scared to do that as well.
Is astral projection only your soul leaving your body when you're sleeping, or can that happen like in your awake state?
It can happen through a meditation state. I've been studying a lot of metaphysics, just to try to get so I can get an understanding of it. But it can also happen through meditation states. Your brain is actually under 4 waves constantly. One of the waves that your brain goes into is called alpha metaphase. And basically that's right. Like right before you're falling asleep, you're like half asleep, but you're not, but your body's still like you're still aware of everything. That's where your brain goes into this alpha phase. When you're into the alpha phase, you are closest to your psychic abilities as possible. That's where, a lot of metaphysicians say that is the best time to manifest things, actually, right before you go to sleep because your brain is in that alpha phase. Now it's very common. Yes, you can astral project during that alpha phase as well.
Question, is it hard to do that astral projection? Like how when you're meditating, like how long does it take you for you to have like that out of body experience?
I honestly don't know. Like it's not hard because it's so out of my control. Like I just don't know when I'm going to do it or when I'm not going to do it. Yeah, it's like I do know the last time that I had a really deep meaning of astral projection was after my grandma passed away. I went to visit her. I did visit her and it was so real. It was so real. Like I know that was the one astral projection that I had that I knew for a fact, like, wow, this is real. I did it, and when I came back, you feel like that pull down, and I didn't want to be here. When I woke up, I just woke up screaming and crying because I didn't want to come back. I wasn't ready to come back, but it was like a light that sends you back. And it's so fast, it's so fast. But one of the difference between astral projection and dreaming is that astral projection is more real. Like whatever you're doing during astral projection, you're kind of going to have that lingering in the back of your mind without subconsciously knowing it, but it'll be there. It's something that's been done. It's kind of like almost like a hard proof where a dream, it's like a dream is more like a dream. It's not too realistic. You can kind of probably control your dreams a little bit more. When astral projection, you can't. It's more like it's more proof of that something was done.
I just learned something new, guys. As much as I love conversations like this, I would probably call it like an outer body experience, not really knowing the term, but it sounds a little bit similar to it. This is something that I will now have to do my homework on, because I'm a very vivid dreamer. I've had also real life experiences sort of like align up with my dreams, and I'm just like, wow. One of the things that I've always said is I feel like the dreams are like the trailer to like our life.
Mhm.
Similar to when you're watching a movie, you get like a glimpse through the trailer, like, oh, this is what this is going to be about. And then you actually see the movie play itself out. My dreams, and probably many people, many others, it's kind of like a trailer, like a little reveal before the real thing plays itself out. But this is really good stuff. I want to know more. We probably could do another topic on this too.
And you probably have astral projected yourself and you just don't know. A lot of
Yeah.
people do it and they just don't know. If you ever come back from a dream where you're not sure if that was real or not, or like later on in the day when you're doing your day-to-day things and you're like, wait, I remember doing this, but did I do it or not? You're probably done it in your astral projection. Like everybody, I'm pretty sure everybody has at one point in their life. They just don't know. They just didn't know.
Yeah, you're right. I was gonna say at first, do you think that astral projection is ties into this past life connection you have?
I think it does, but like I said, I think everybody has the ability to do it. They just don't know. But I think with me, I could probably be more in tune, like I think it's really hard to explain, but I think throughout the gap of when I wasn't here, from when she passed away and when before I was born, there's something here. There's like a gap of where was I? Where was my soul? Now in this gap, I think a lot of my dreams define where I was. Like sometimes, like one of the things that I used to say when I was a baby was, I want to go back home. I would say that a lot. And I do feel like I don't belong here. I do feel that to this day, like I don't belong here. Like this is not my home, So there is like that gap where that is where I'm from. That's my home. And since I was born, since I was a baby, I used to tell my mom, I want to go home. I want to go home. And I don't know if sometimes I astral project back to that place, maybe it calls me back, So I'm not sure if I'm a little bit more in tune than others. But there might be, my purpose is to find more people like that too, who are more in tune. If you have any doubts of astral projections, one of the things I always recommend is actually reading the CIA documentations on astral projections. Very, very interesting what they studied, what the
Interesting.
government studied. Yeah.
So I've actually heard of astral projection, but I've heard about it through television series. I don't know if you guys ever watched the TV show Charmed when you were younger with the three witches.
Yeah.
So you guys know the older sister, Prue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she actually had the powers of her witch power. One of her witch powers was astral projection, where she, had that out of body, experience. And, she asked herself, like, how am I in this part of the house when my body, is still asleep?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like media and TV series, I have heard of it. But like when you explain it though, it sounds very intense and very challenging. To go through such a process is very, very interesting. So I would definitely also like to learn more, because again, I've only seen it through TV. For
Definitely
sure.
recommend reading the government documents on astral projection when they started doing the research on it. It's very, very interesting, and the way they intellected it's more understandable too. Probably like the way I'm describing it. I'm just describing it from experience. They'll describe it off, studies that they were able to document. But yeah, it's like a gift and a curse. But I do believe everybody does have the ability to do this. It's how much are you tapped in within your brain? How much are you tapped in within your consciousness? Consciousness is energy. It's a transformative energy. So, like a lot of times, you'll somebody will be thinking something and you say, they'll be like, oh, I was just thinking that, that's transfer of consciousness. And a lot of people don't know how to use that and how to transfer that. When I read books on metaphysics, I'll read something and be like, wait, I know this. I knew this, like I'm already doing this, So I think I might have been born a little bit more tapped in, and I find myself teaching others, so maybe that's one of the things I'm here for too, is to teach others that, hey, reincarnation is real, metaphysics is real, your conscious is real, your brain is so powerful that some people, that's why there's so many TVs, music to dumb you down, because you are so powerful within yourself. You're able to accomplish anything you want. Anything.
I love how you mentioned like where energy and your brain is powerful, and your soul. And I want to ask you, would you consider, we spoke about soul types during our recordings, would you consider yourself an old soul?
Oh, absolutely. And if you got to know me, you would see that I'm really an old soul. Absolutely. And I was born with some wisdom that just came with me. Like, I've been on other, not podcasts, but I've been on a show before when I spoke about my reincarnation, and somebody said to me, well, if you've been here before, how come you weren't born knowing math? That it might have not been my strength before my past life either. But I was born with some wisdom. I was born bringing wisdom, because ever since I was a baby, I would tell my parents and my grandmother these things like, hey, everything like I'm telling you guys, I would tell them since I was a baby. So at least I came back with that wisdom.
Yeah, we're a group of old souls right here in this conversation because I knew you were going to say absolutely yes. I knew it because from our conversations and this conversation, there's definitely old soul and wisdom in you, and I dig that. I feel connected to you in that sense as well. Would you say that are there any recent, I know you said you're 36 years old now, when you were a lot younger, that connection was fairly like really strong with you and your relative. Do you think it's still as strong as back then, your connection?
Yes, absolutely. One of the most recent experience I have that I'll share with you guys, which was very interesting, was in 2019. I took a family trip with my brother, my mom, and my dad to Brazil. We went to my hometown where I was born and where my family is from. And my father actually used to own a leather factory in Brazil. In my previous life, which was, I would say, like my aunt, she would hang out a lot in the leather factory, just, playing around, hanging out in the office. She would go to work with my grandfather. So she was at the leather factory a lot. So if you fast forward to today, actually fast forward to 2019, I myself in this body, I've never been to the leather factory. I was only born in Brazil. My parents left Brazil when I was only 6 months old. So I was only born there. I never really went back to my hometown. When I did go back to Brazil, I would go to Rio or other states, but not to my hometown. So it was like, I guess, like one of my first times back in my hometown of Brazil. And my brother and I decided to go visit my grandfather's leather factory. We wanted to see, hey, it's still operating, and my uncle is now the one running the leather factory. And now this uncle that I speak of, he was the stepbrother of my aunt. So that was her stepbrother, right? So we went to the leather factory, and I just knew how to get there. I just knew. I told my brother, make a left, make a right. We just got there, right? So when we got to the leather factory, we did show up unannounced. They didn't know that we were coming. My uncle had no idea we were actually in town. But that's how things are in Brazil. Like, nobody calls anybody. They just show up to their house. So we showed up to the leather factory, and I knew right away that man standing right there was my uncle. Like, I knew. I'm like, oh, that's him. That's our uncle. My brother was like, are you sure? Now, my brother's older than me. He was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Let's go. So we walk up to him, and I say, hi, just greeted him. I said, I'm Liz's daughter. This is my brother. He was so happy to see us. But he was looking at me like if I was a ghost. He was looking at me like if, he hasn't seen me since I was a baby. He was looking at me like if I was a ghost. So I said, and he's like, hey, you want me to give you a tour of the leather factory? And I said, sure. The moment we walked into the leather factory, we walked inside. I just knew where everything was. I know the office was over there. I knew the bathroom was this way. When we were in the office, actually, there was a door that would take you to my grandfather's office. And And I'm like, but there was a door here. He's like, we sealed that door. Like that door, we sealed the door. We sealed that part of the office and yada, yada. But he was looking at me as a ghost. And then he comes up to me and he says, this is very strange because you've never been here. You're starting to scare me, he said to me. And then I'm just being myself. I wasn't trying to scare anybody. I was just being myself because so much when I said, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And then he goes like, oh, it's down. I'm like, yeah, I know where it is. I just knew where everything was. And one of the things that really, really hit me strong when we walked into the leather factory was the smell. I remember that smell, because leather has a very distinctive smell. Remember the smell. Everything in there, it's like I've been there many, many times before. Now he can vouch, my mother can vouch, my brother can vouch, everybody that worked at the leather factory, because they've been working there for years, they can vouch. I've never been there. I myself in this body never been there, but I knew where the door was that got sealed. I remember exactly the smell. I knew everything in that leather factory. I was talking to my uncle like if I knew him forever. He was looking at me, he was staring at me like if he saw a ghost, So I guess that was the most recent like intensive experience that I had, was probably visiting the leather factory. And even the names of the previous employees that I remember their names too. He was shocked because he's never seen me at this age. He has heard stories of, things that I remember, but I guess for him to have that personal experience, and I was his stepsister, in the previous life, to him, it really, really rattled his soul. From then on, I took his WhatsApp and we stay in contact, and he asks me questions all the time too, questions to answers that I can answer them like if it's normal to me.
I wonder if that idea of I want to go home, if that leather factory was like home to your aunt.
I believe so, maybe, because she used to hang out there a lot, apparently she would go there after school, just wait for my grandfather, and then they would go home together. So maybe another thing, right after we left the leather factory, I also took my brother to the house where I grew up in my previous life, the house I was telling you guys. I remember exactly where it was. And like in Brazil, all the houses pretty much look alike, So I remember like, this is it. And then my brother was like, are you sure? And then my mother came and she verified, oh my God, yeah, this is the house. Like, it was just so natural to me. And then my brother, like, he's very like ballsy a little bit in a way. So he knocked on the door and he's like, hey, we used to live here a long time ago. The guy that is living in that house now knows about me. He's heard the story because it is a small town. So he let us inside the house just, so we can take a tour, visit around. He offered us coffee because Brazilians are very hospitable. You go to the house, you're going to drink coffee and cookies. So he brings us inside the house, and the house is just pretty much the same. The tree that I was telling you guys that's in the backyard is still there. Like, I used to climb that tree. Like, that's the memory that I have. Like, it's pretty much still vivid. It's still there. And yeah, there are a lot of people in the town that can, vouch for that. Yeah. And I picked the house. I remember the house. I remember what it looks like, everything.
Amazing, because just the close ties and connection from then till now, I feel like it's always this ongoing, it's a circle of life. Like, we're connected to be like a living proof and to tell your story, and share it so that others can relate. That is, in my belief, part of our purpose and our calling. So I'm so glad you're able to share it. I hope that people that are listening and that know of your story can also, share theirs. I know you mentioned you believe there are other people that are connected to a past life. Can you just please, give us some pointers on how someone may know that they are?
Obviously, like, aside, if you have somebody that can help you differentiate your memories, share your memories with somebody, that would help them to try to figure out if they are in some way connected with their past life. Like I said, if they have a similar story like me with somebody within their family that passed away, and then a couple years later, somebody was born bringing that experiences and memories back, that's another sign of connection. Like I said, like if you have like blur memories, like I have marks, scars. In my book that they wrote over here, they have, it's a notebook, so it's black and white, but you can see like I was born with all her scars, like the one on her head I have on. So when she passed away, the rod went through her head. So I was born with the scar on this side and on that side. When she was younger, she also had a fence fall on her foot, which developed this scar. I was also born with that scar. So, like a baby born with scars is not, it's a sign, it could be a sign of a past life. We share the same, I have a birthmark on my arm here, that birthmark. We shared the same birthmark. She had one in the exact same place. You can either call it a coincidence, you can call it a birthmark, but the scars, like that's just too much of a coincidence. So those are, I believe, are all signs.
The scars from her accident, and for you to carry that as well, I don't think it's a mere coincidence. It's her making her mark and way back to still, be present in some way, at least her soul and yours.
Because the scars is in the very exact same spot, so everything is like very on point.
I'm so glad you're able to shine some light on this topic. I hope
Mhm.
that others who have felt like they are connected to a past life, or they're questioning their belonging or their purpose, hopefully this story can resonate within them in case they had any questions or doubts. One of the things that, along with your story, that we wanted to just dive a little bit deeper into is
Mhm.
also your birth chart. And Jissela, she has a very pleasant way of reading into birth charts and explaining that to those who don't fully know how to understand their birth chart. I think it's pretty cool stuff. Brooke has been able to give us, like her birthday and place of birth. So now
Mhm.
Jissela is going to take over the remainder of this interview to speak on your specific birth chart, Brooke. So I think it's pretty cool what she has to say.
Oh, I'm
So
so excited. I'm so
yeah,
excited to hear.
take it away, Jissela. You got this.
Alrighty. So for those in Presente that don't know, I just want to go back a little bit. We had a whole episode on birth charts. And if you're curious, be sure to check out that episode early on from season 2, because the birth charts tell us about the position and the way that the cosmos were in at the time of your birth. But here's something you guys might not be aware of, and it's that within our birth charts, we possess the ability to see the sign we were before, known as our south node. And the south node is what you are learning to, like, let's say, leave behind, or that's the sign that you were in a past life. So I like to call it like the sign in training that allowed you, to get some certain skill sets or some, phenomena on your current timeline, which is the present, which is today. And then your north node, this makes space for what you would call your quote unquote north node. It's how they say, follow your true north. And it's what we should use, to help guide us in our present or more current timeline. So, Brooke, when I looked at your chart, I was very intrigued because reading your south node and north node, and I actually took notes while we were doing this interview, because you said a lot of things that involved like astral projection and the fact that you have, these visions, those, the blurry visions, all these experiences, and it ties into your north node. So your north node is what is today, like your current present timeline. Before I go into that, I do want to have like a little bit of a breakdown with your birth chart. Looking at your birth chart, I would call you a practical charmer. From your birth chart, you possess mostly air and some fire energies in your chart. But for today, I'm going to touch up on the big 3, and of course, your south and your north node. Your sun sign, okay, this is the sign that you were born under, right? So Jennifer told me that you were born January 11th, which I think is very interesting, because if you put it together, I don't know how much you know about numerology, but it's
11.
yeah. So yeah, you have the numbers 111, which is an indication that you will have a lot of new beginnings that will follow you throughout your life, which is crazy because I have one of my best friends that lives in Florida. She actually was born the same day as you, 111. Again, you will have a lot of new beginnings that follow you throughout your lifetime. I want to say you are a Capricorn, right? That's the sign that you were born under. Capricorns are known to be methodical. Some Capricorns, I feel like, they start some of their livelihood livelihoods, or at least the ones that I've known or spoken to, because it's very hard to speak to a Capricorn. Not a lot of people can speak to Capricorns. It's a very, you really have to like sit down with a Capricorn to get to know them, because they don't really reveal much about themselves like to people. They'll do like surface level and that's it, but not really like go deep in. But then I looked at the rest of your chart and I'm like, okay, maybe there's more to that. As I was saying, so some Capricorns may start off with hardship in their journey or in their youth, but they can, see those hardships and, those things that play along, because Capricorns, I want to say, out of the earth signs, Capricorns are very aware of things. Like they'll be just aware of like, the hardships of life, and they would, one day themselves like to do better. They always plan for long term, because in the end, that's what they would like. They would like longevity. And in my opinion, Capricorns, knowing them close, no matter how long it will take a Capricorn, they'll always like pave their way to their long-term goals. Like it doesn't matter how long it takes you. You are eventually going to climb the mountain, because you guys are known as the sea goats. You guys are gonna climb your way to the top. No matter how long it takes you, you'll eventually get there. And for a Capricorn, I want to say it's not really about like going fast. It's about going steady. It's about moving smart. It's about those qualities. They're also, I'm sure you've heard of this, they're quite successful with business ventures. Again, Capricorns, will take the business venture, but they'll do it slowly, but they'll be effective about it. Plans for long-term success. You guys are very realistic. Capricorns are always very capable and very persevering. Now, I'm going to move on to something you may not know about, which is your moon sign and your ascendant sign. Your moon sign is your emotional intelligence. It's the way that you respond to other people from an emotional point of view. So I wanted to ask you, how do you feel like you are with other people? Or would you say you're more extroverted around others?
If I really, really know them, if they've been in my life
Okay.
for years, yeah. But no, I'm more of an introvert.
Okay, that's fair. But so looking at your chart, I want to say you do have a Libra moon. A Libra is an air sign, and air signs tend to be very communicative. As a Libra moon, for the most part, a lot of them seem to be like social butterflies. So again, if it's just the people that you know, even with the people that you know around you, you might be more social and talkative and just be in present in those social discussions. With a Capricorn sun, I feel like to present all the facts first before you just jump into like any like social discussions. Like again, you were we did this whole episode and you were telling us about like some studies that you did that involved like metaphysics and all of that. So you came as a Capricorn with a Libra moon, you came in well prepared to speak about that. So I would say like your Libra moon ties you in very well to your Capricorn sun. As a Libra moon, as I was reading your chart, I would say that you sometimes have a way of seeing things that need to be fixed within your own social circle, or sometimes maybe you would like to see things like fixed a little bit quicker than others, like maybe with other people, like depending on how you have relationships with other people, you might realize that with some people, there may need some like fixture, just like certain relationships or something like that. And then I'm going to move on to your ascendant. So your ascendant is the way that you are presented outwardly to the world. So for example, like somebody might have like, I don't know, a Pisces ascendant. And that just means that from like their outward exterior wise, they may look like more dreamy or more, I don't know, like more ethereal. Pisces are very much known to be like ethereal beings. They're a water sign. So they just like to be in like grace and a state of flow. So your ascendant is actually in Libra. And yeah, so that was interesting because again, like your big three are one big earth sign, which is Capricorn, and then your moon and your ascendant sign are in the sign of Libra. And Libras are known as like the charmers of the zodiac sign. And with a Libra ascendant, I would say you tend to attract people just very effortlessly. Like as soon as people just get to know you, it's very easy going to like, I guess, speak with you. Just a natural charm. Like you don't need to like go overboard or try so hard. It's there. Just people can have a nice, pleasant conversation with you.
That's interesting. I agree. Yeah, people do talk to me a lot.
Oh yeah. That's probably what it is. It's
Yeah.
it's the Libra ascendant. It's all working its own charm. So now going into the ties of the episode, your south node versus your north node. It was very interesting to see how all of this like played into today's episode on past life connections. So your south node is actually, or the sign that you used to be, according to your birth chart, right? According to the time and place that I placed you on the website.
Mm-hmm.
It said that your south node was in Virgo, in the sign of Virgo. So Virgos, they are known as the maidens of the zodiac. And in the past life, you were another earth sign because Virgos are an earth sign. I want to say Virgos are in tune with, their health, their organization, the details, and keeping things structured. They are known to be perfectionists, but, I think Virgos also realize that, they themselves are not perfect, but they like to do things in a perfect manner. But the only issue with this, with any Virgo placement in the birth chart, is that sometimes if you're not careful, it can, cause you to suffer from burnout or overload. And I feel like this is a common trait between a lot of earth signs, because a lot of earth signs, they tend to be very practical in the way of their approach to life.
Mm-hmm.
So they tend to be very independent, not really ask for the help of anybody. So in that regard, I feel like, that kind of ties into your Capricorn sun sign again, which is the sign you are born under. In the past, I was reading more in depth. It says that you may have focused on, wellness or healing and keeping aspects of your life structured and organized. And something else I noticed was it says that your south node in Virgo is 25 degrees. So I don't know if you're, if you are aware, but so the amount of degrees actually means that you were probably this sign in other past lives.
Mm-hmm.
So the higher the number or in degrees you are in the sign, the more times that you have been that sign before.
Okay, interesting.
I'm not sure again how the universe works and flows. I'm not sure if once upon a time ago humans were allowed to pick their own zodiac signs and all this and third, but I think it's all very cool though how it flows and it ties in. Virgos are very high on self-improvement. I have met a couple of Virgos in my life, and they always talk about how they can do better or how they can grow better. And everything is about getting, better and continual growth, never stopping to learn, never stop learning, I'm saying. This is actually something I got from Google Notes. So your south node in Virgo is your departure in this lifetime. So the south is actually what you're leaving behind to embrace your north node, like I was saying, following your true north. You came into this life with some training of your past life. So like what you were speaking about, being born and, feeling this reincarnation, and like Jennifer was saying, not being completely done with your purpose,
Mm-hmm.
which was interesting. And then just for fun, I threw in there, you may have been in your Virgo past life, you may have been a scientist, a librarian, or an investigator, someone who uses their critical thinking in everyday life, because Virgos are incredibly, nurturing and healing of the zodiac sign. You might have also been a doctor, surgeon, or a nurse, or some sort of healer. So now let's come and bring it back to your present timeline, which is your north node. So your north node was actually the most interesting, and I feel like the reason why we're talking about everything today. Your north node is in Pisces. I'm not sure how much do you know about the Pisces north node.
I don't. I know, like, I'm surrounded by a lot of Pisces, so I know like the sign, but not so much about the north node.
Okay, so the Pisces north node is interesting because Pisces is actually the last sign in the zodiac, and Pisces are known to be natural empaths. They're also a water sign. And because it's the last sign of the zodiac, it picks up the frequencies of the other 11 signs of the zodiac. You can easily, understand others and be compassionate. But as a Piscean, or any water sign, really, you have to be careful not to let certain feelings or too much of what others' energies or frequencies are affect you, because as a Pisces is the one water sign where it can really overwhelm or affect you. But again, you have a moon in Libra, so most likely, again, you always would think before you speak in a way that is balanced, because Libra is the balancer. They are the scales of the zodiac, and you would always, I guess, see the fairness of a certain situation.
That's true. Yeah.
You would like analyze and see like where the scales might be a little tipped over. So
Mhm.
you wouldn't let like too many over emotional feelings like get to you. Because in the astrology studies, air signs tend to be a little bit more logical than the rest of the zodiac signs, where they would see all the facts first
Mhm.
before they allow, emotions to overwhelm them. Now, this was the interesting part. So you're also drawn to your unconsciousness and your spiritual path, which can and is why you most likely have exhibit past life connections, because there is a very strong intuition in your chart. Again, this is your north node. Pisces are known to be very in tune with their psychic abilities and their spiritual awakenings, anything within the realm of energies and souls. Pisces is like probably have the highest level of like being in tune in that regard of like the physical world or the outer physical world, along with the sign of Scorpio. They're
Mhm.
very much in tune with like you were saying before, like society likes to construct one way, but there are certain souls that wake up. And we spoke about this in previous episodes, where you have spiritual awakenings.
Mhm.
And you are most definitely tied into your north node, especially again with all the things that I wrote down, where you're studying metaphysics, and you are deeply going into your psychic abilities, where even sharing your own story today is going to help other people like talk about like their own stories, where they also might have similar ideas to what you're going through and your process and some of the challenges that you have been facing. It's because your north node is in Pisces. You have a lot of psychic ties to your past, and I feel like you're embracing that today in the present.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I can relate to that. Sister's a Pisces, and she's the one person that understands my craziness.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And coincidentally too, so I'm not sure if this correlates with the South Node, but she did pass away on September 1st, which is under a Virgo sign.
Wow.
Yeah. September 1st was a day that in my household, I was never allowed to do anything. I wasn't allowed to leave the house. I would never go to school September 1st. I usually,
Mhm.
every job I start, I always say I cannot work September 1st. Ever since I was a child, my parents kept me inside on September 1st. They were always so scared something would happen on that day with me. But yeah, she did pass away on September 1st, which was under a Virgo sign.
That's very interesting.
It
It
is.
might correlate with your past self and your current self. But again, your north node is everything you're meant to embrace in this present timeline. And I feel like you're doing a really great job in the fact that you're very spiritually in tune with oh yeah, no problem, with your past life connection, with your story. Very much you're very much tied in. And something else I wanted to just read up on a little bit, or that I was reading on Cafe Astrology, which is where I go to plug in your birth chart information. It says, or it said, in your true north node in Pisces is your path is to learn to worry less and believe more, overthinking and overanalyzing can sometimes limit, your growth towards life. You are learning to let go of perfectionism. You're learning to pay more attention to your mental health and emotional healing and relax the rules from time to time. Qualities that you could develop, are your faith, your belief, your tolerance, your compassion for yourself. And this is interesting because Capricorns, like I said, Capricorns have a tendency to be really hard on themselves sometimes. And I feel like this is the case for most earth sign energies. Like they always like beat themselves up if they're like not to a specific point in their life where they want to be. But in this lifetime, your north node or your north compass is telling you to like let go of the, of those beliefs and embrace your more physical, your psychic abilities, and to trust in your own intuition.
Crazy that you said that because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. That's the spiritual awakening I'm going through right now, is learning how to let go of the perfectionism, learning how to worry less. Because you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. I can be very hard on myself when I don't get the things that I want accomplished. But I'm starting to just say, you know what? It is what it is. And it took me a long, really long time to get to that mental state.
Mhm.
And it's so crazy you're saying that because that's exactly where I'm at right now.
See, so this is what I mean. So another thing is, I want to just mention to to everybody, because this is for everybody, that yes, it's great to be, goal oriented and have your goals set in place, dream big, and definitely, share your version of the world that you want to, see forth in your life. But don't forget to also live in your softness as well. Don't forget sometimes to acknowledge your emotions and to just sit with them for a bit and try to understand like why certain things, are happening, just to make sure that you also don't forget to, that your softness matters. It matters because it's, the side of you that you want to demonstrate compassion, because this world needs a lot of compassion. It definitely does.
Mm.
So as a Capricorn, don't be so hard on yourself. Make sure you also take care. And also, because you have a north node in the sign of Pisces, and again, Pisces is a water sign, they can also be really hard on themselves, and it can overwhelm them emotionally. Don't forget to use your Libra parts of your zodiac to help balance you in a way that is one that takes care of your soul as well. So in this lifetime, try to take care of your soul, because it seems like your soul goes through a lot, especially with what you shared with us today.
Yes, absolutely. One of the things that metaphysics is teaching me right now is to live in the moment. That's changing me a lot because it's like you said it, and I'm a very much overthinker. I'm always like, my mind is always already 5 years ahead of what I'm trying to do now. So I am trying, and it's working. Metaphysics is definitely helping me take me there, is living in the moment, and that's being it's being more easy on my soul too, because of that I'm worrying less, like you said, I am a seed goat in the end, because I'm okay with doing things slowly as long as I get to where I need to go, and that's what's important. And if there's one thing that I can tell everybody in the world, is it's okay. It's okay. It's so important to enjoy life. Life goes by so fast. It's so important to live in the moment and enjoy life.
Yes.
Um,
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you, Brooke, for being present with us. Thank you for dropping these gems along the way. You're teaching us as well, and I'm sure many others that are going to be listening to this. But truly honored to have you here on Presente. Thank you for being present with us. And anything else you want to say, Gisela?
Definitely thank you for sharing your past life connections on the show with us. I think if anything, you're going to help a lot of people currently who are also feeling this sort of way where they might have felt a past life connections. And I want to say that I think that it definitely does happen differently for other people. I think it just depends on the soul and how you go about living your current lifetime and experiencing everything. And yeah, here on Presente, yeah, we are all about living and being in the moment. It's definitely why, I want to say Jennifer came up with the title, and I love it because it's a lesson for everybody to be presente.
Absolutely. Ladies, thank you so much for having me on the podcast and allowing me to share my experience with you guys. And yes, my intentions here is to try to reach out to more people who have this experience as I do. Don't be ashamed to talk about it. I was ashamed for a very long time to talk about it. Not ashamed, but more like shy because of what people would say. But I'm overcoming that. And if this podcast can help other people overcome that too and speak about it, then my goal is being met there, because that's what I want. Every single body is born with a gift. All I ask is for you to tap into your mind and start realizing that gift. The moment you start to realize that gift, everything falls into place. And that is your purpose in life, is to realize what your gift is. Hello, I am Brooke Bezerra and I'm on Presente.
How do you know you may have had a past life? The family that you're with may have, perhaps, you were their parent in the past, a teacher, maybe, who knows? I spoke to a friend where she believes that she may have been a mother to her mom. So that in that way, familial ties may be a reason to know that you have had a past life. Also, again, you may feel familiarity with certain people that maybe you perhaps met in the past. I actually met a person that I used to work with in New York City, another substitute teacher who was a teacher in her own country in Ecuador. And she told me that she possesses, the gift of like sight, where she told me that she can feel when someone is about to pass on to the next life. And she was like, don't think that our meeting right now is a coincidence, she said to me, because I was, we were both together in a classroom giving Spanish lessons to students. She's like, I think me and you might have met in a past life. And I was like, oh, really? And she was like, yeah. I was like, and I found this to be such an interesting thing, because I'm like, okay, that I guess that is a way, for you to tell. And I remember in my job, this lady, she was a Pisces, she had a Pisces sun, so she was a water sign. And I was like, oh, I have a Pisces moon. So that's why I think we connected really well when it came to like talking about like these sort of topics about spirituality and psychic abilities and such. But again, very intriguing.
Other ways you can identify with have had a past life would be you're highly intuitive. You possess traits of empathy, clairvoyance, and telepathic abilities. You also have a sixth sense. Sixth sense doesn't just mean that you can see ghosts or spirits, but you also have a natural ability to know about things before they even happen, or about other people without even necessarily knowing or speaking to them. It's to know about things that other people may not know of.
According to Vogue magazine India, here are more ways you may feel connected to your past self. You have unexplained feelings. Maybe in some aspects of life that should be fulfilled, you feel like something is missing. That missing feeling you may want to explore could be the past alerting you to see what your soul needs today or in this present time.
Visions or reoccurring dreams. Maybe you've experienced visions that felt real or familiar. Dreams that have called you back to your past self.
connected to certain culture or cultures. For example, I spoke about earlier my connection, or I feel a connection strongly to ancient Egyptian culture, or feeling a certain kind of feeling to a particular country or countries.
Deja vu, experiencing something you may have already experienced, or maybe a sense of familiarity to a destination or skill or place or person.
Xenoglossy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this I found from Vogue India magazine. It is described as a rare paranormal phenomenon that someone can read or write a certain language despite never being exposed to it. I always think this may be people who have a knack for understanding languages faster than others, but again, who knows?
Lastly, hidden talents. You possess prodigy energy.
How to connect or understand your past life. Meditation. Past life guided meditation. It is also called past life regression, where you do a meditation or a hypnosis that allows you to visit your past selves. Your birth chart. Your birth chart contains something that is called your north node and your south node. With this, though, you'll have a sense of knowing the life you may have been before this current life. The 23andMe ancestry test. DNA, or this test, and similar to other tests that they have made, can give us clues to our genetics within our family trees. Dream connections. Again, this is the idea of you possibly visualizing your past self in a dream. Present reflective memories. Your present self feels a sense of deja vu, visions of what is calling you from a past life.
What is reincarnation? Interesting enough, it was recently Easter. Happy Easter to those who celebrate. Easter is celebrated in Christianity as it is a time to commemorate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Today, we use several different symbols to represent this holiday. Eggs are used as a symbol of new life, and rabbits represent fertility. Reincarnation is the rebirth of the soul in a new form, new body, a new symbol. Your soul is experiencing a rebirth cycle, becoming a new version of you every time.
Past life connection importance. Past lives is important because understanding your past connection can help guide your present self better. Imagine if we knew our past selves. What would you ask them? What wisdom would they care to share, or would you learn from them? What skills were the ones that they helped you bring you to today's future or today's present? The multiverse. The multiverse is a series of galaxies or worlds where we may be other versions of ourselves. We have only studied a small part of this galaxy, and many more are out there besides the one that we live in. Who's to say a different version of ourselves exists out there as well? Same goes for the oceans, because we do not yet have the technology to go into deeper sea levels. The universe truly is a mystery. Movies like Everywhere, Anywhere, All at Once are pretty good interpretations of that. Or movies like Doctor Strange, Spider-Man with Miles Morales, and The Flash from DC comic books.
Thank you for tuning in to our talk on past life connections. If you would like to learn more, here are some recommended sources you can check out. For your birth chart, cafeastrology.com. Here you can learn about your north and south nodes. From Vogue India, past life signs info at www.vogue.india.